Okay. Um, Hello, welcome to today's digital department update with chemical and biological engineering. My name is Sarah Von Eye, and I'm the interim alumni director here at CARA. And just some housekeeping things before we get started, just so everyone is aware. This event is being recorded, and afterwards we'll upload it to our South Dakota Mines CARA YouTube channel. And then if you can, the chat option is available, and then there's also a Q&A, so feel free to drop questions in the Q&A question, and I'll watch for them to have Dr. Benjamin answer. And then the chat, you can choose to send it to just the panelists or attendees, but if you can, or would like to, so if you could just type in your class and major, and then make sure you send it to all the panelists and everyone so everyone can see. I know one of the questions everyone's curious is who's here. So this kind of gives everyone an idea. But so with that being said, please welcome interim department head, Dr. Ken Benjamin.
All right. I guess I should say good morning and good afternoon, depending on which time zone everybody is in. Yeah, my name is, as Sarah introduced, my name is Ken Benjamin. I'm currently the interim department head and an associate professor here in chemical and biological engineering. I know in this format we don't get a chance to necessarily see see each other's faces and whatnot, and maybe to talk as freely. Hopefully there'll be opportunities to do that, maybe even yet this summer at the reunion. Since I know I'm looking at the attendee list, and I know some of you I've met before or spoken with on the phone, and others of you maybe haven't had a chance to meet yet. So I guess maybe I thought what I'll do is do a little bit of an introduction of myself, just because I know for some of you, it sounds like maybe it's been a few years since we've had the opportunity to do this kind of department update. And so I might be a new face to a number of you. So I'll give you a little bit of sense of my background and my connection to the School of Mines family. So I am originally from the state of Michigan. I grew up in the greater Flint area. I'm a General Motors kid. My father worked for General Motors. He's was a chemist by degree, but did some work in paints and chemistry. Also did some work in industrial and mechanical engineering. I did my undergraduate in chemical engineering at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. I worked for a little bit of time in industry. I worked for Air Products and Chemicals. If you're familiar with the company out on the East Coast, we would always say, we would say Philadelphia, but it wasn't Philadelphia. We would say Allentown, but it technically wasn't Allentown. It was a little town called Trexlertown, just outside of Allentown. But I worked as a process engineer for Air Products for a couple of years. I did a master's in chemical engineering at the University of Colorado Boulder. Went back to the University of Michigan for my PhD. Did a brief research stint at the State University of New York in Buffalo, New York, whereas my advisor there said, if you're not familiar with Buffalo, New York, they have two seasons, June and winter. Okay. But I worked there as a postdoctoral researcher, and my connection to mines dates from 2007. So I joined the department back in 2007. And for me as an individual, I teach a lot of courses related to thermodynamics, modeling and simulation, numerical methods, and process control. And on the research end, do a lot of computational research, most of it centered on thermodynamics, reaction engineering, catalysis, some bioenergy, and some biofuels. So that's the 2-minute version of me. Some things that I thought we could talk about, because I know that, like I said, it sounds like it's been a number of years since maybe this has been done, or since there's been any kind of broader communication. So we kind of wanted to maybe fill some folks in, and I'm going to scan the panelist list and just look at dates. Yeah. So for a wide range of alums, just to kind of fill in on some things that you may have known about or may not have known about, but just to kind of bring everybody up to speed. For some of you might be wondering why the department is chemical and biological engineering. So just like a lot of chemical engineering departments in the US since about the 1990s, that was, mid 1990s, that's when the explosion happened, when all of the bio hyphen life science companies really started going after chemical engineering graduates for hirings, pharmaceutical companies and the like. And so kind of keeping lockstep with that, a lot of departments in the US chose to add, instead of chemical engineering, become chemical and bio something engineering. So we did that largely because there was a large bioenergy, bioprocessing input and emphasis in the department. A lot of industrial recruiters were coming, looking to our students for those skill sets and those technology areas. We had a lot of research related to that. So basically, we made the choice to kind of, rename the department in that way. Some of that was simultaneous with everybody on this call probably knows the School of Mines as a fantastic university for undergrad education. I'll interject a little story here briefly. Can't help it. My Italian grandmother used to say that we tell life through stories, so I'm just going to keep her tradition going. But when I was out in New York, I had a neighbor who, I think this was Buffalo, New York, but Chris was from Maine. And when I mentioned that I was coming out to interview at the School of Mines, Chris, whose entire life was Maine to Western New York, he said, "Wow, that's a fantastic university." So the name of the School of Mines extends, many of you, may already have that perspective from your respective careers in industry and whatnot, but I thought that was pretty impressive that Chris, all the way in Maine, was very, very familiar with the School of Mines. But, I guess going with that, have this long-standing history in undergrad education, something to really be proud of. In 2007, we did launch a PhD program. For those that know Drs. Winter and Pazinski and Dixon very well, they were really the champions of that. They had a pretty bold vision to start a PhD program. And kind of with that, a number of things came. Besides the PhD program, there was an initial effort, research effort in bioenergy and bioprocessing. There was a brand new building, and or at least I said renovation of the existing building, and in addition to the what some of you would have known as the chemistry and chemical engineering building, which is now known as the chemical, biological engineering and chemistry building, okay, or as we affectionately refer to it, CBEC. But that all happened in 2000, or at least the PhD program happened in 2007. It also brought to the department 3 new faculty members, and I am one of those 3. So, so basically my time on campus kind of started with the PhD program. For those that are wondering about the PhD program, basically we now currently have about 25 PhD students in the program. We've pretty much sustained that level since 2007. So from 07 all the way through to today, have 25 PhD students in the program. We've also seen a pretty healthy growth in master's students in our department. So we probably have about 20 master's students in our department as well. Related to the building, brand new renovation to the building, which gave us not only a brand new unit operations lab space, but also gave us, brand new, basically new research and teaching, additional research and teaching spaces in that new wing. So a lot of exciting things happened. Maybe I'll put in a quick plug at this moment. If you've not had the opportunity to travel back to campus in a while, since 2011, that's when the building was finished. If it's been a while, please consider coming to the reunion this summer. This is going to especially be kind of a special year for chemical engineering on this campus. This is the 100-year anniversary. So if your summer travel plans allow you to come this way between July 8 and July 10, would be a fantastic opportunity to get to meet everyone, and also an opportunity for folks to be able to see the new building and all the exciting things that are happening here. So that's a bit of the kind of the recent history. Maybe to talk, maybe I'll keep on that note, and I'm gonna share my screen real quick, just because some of you might wondering, for things that are different. Well, who's in the CBE department now as faculty? So I'll speak to that real quick. So hopefully you can all see my screen here. This is the main university website for all things chemical engineering. And over here on the left-hand menu, I'll just go and click on faculty and staff, and to what I affectionately refer to as our faculty mugshots. But here's everybody in the department right now. We've grown quite a bit since prior to 2007 from the addition of the PhD program. And I see there's a question in the Q&A. I'll go catch that here in just a second. Myself, Tim Brenza, relatively new faculty member, assistant professor. Tim does a lot of biomedical engineering research, and teaches a lot of courses, teaches material energy balances, teaches courses in fluid mechanics and mass transfer. Maria Carrion, another new faculty member. Maria does research in catalysis and energy. Her teaching focus areas are heat transfer and reaction engineering. Some of you might remember Dave Dixon. Dr. Dixon, still very active in a lot of the senior courses, teaches process safety, teaches separations and unit operations, process control, and still has a lot of ongoing research in environmental systems and polymers. Dr. Gilcrease, research areas centered on biochemical engineering, specifically biochemical reactor engineering. Also, a lot of teaches a lot in senior design. Our whole senior design circuit, fall and spring, senior design 1 and 2 is taught by Dr. Gilcrease. Along with his research expertise, he also has a fair amount of process engineering experience from his time with Dow. And so he brings that into the process design curriculum. Also, he's the champion of a biochemical engineering specialization that we have on campus now. So we actually, in a way, produce, if you want to call it, a biochemical engineer now. The biochemical engineering specialization is just basically a 10-credit concentration on biochemical reactor design, industrial microbiology, and things like that. That really kind of allows someone on their transcript, it'll say BS chemical engineering / biochemical engineering. And so Dr. Gilcrease leads that. Dr. Groven, some of you might be familiar with Dr. Groven. Probably most of you might be familiar with her own PhD advisor. She is a former PhD student of Dr. Pazinski's. And so her research areas are much the same as Dr. Pazinski's, does a lot with nanoenergetic materials, combustion, kinetics. Dr. Menkhaus, and I should say Dr. Groven's teaching areas, kinetics. She also teaches the unit operations labs. Dr. Menkhaus, research focus areas on bioseparations, specifically pharmaceutical and bioprocessing related separations. Teaching focus areas, you guessed it, a lot in separations, mass transfer, and the like. Dr. Salem, he's jointly appointed. He is a professor in chemical and biological engineering, but also in material science engineering, nano engineering. He's also currently the head director of the composite and polymer engineering lab. And his research areas, as you probably imagined, deal heavily with composites and polymers. Teaching areas, much the same, composites, polymers, and nano systems. Dr. Rajesh Sani, should mention Dr. Salem, physicist by degree, but of course his research and teaching areas spill over into chemical engineering. In similar fashion, Dr. Sani, microbiologist by degree, but his research and some of his teaching areas spill over into chemical engineering. Does a lot of research at the interface between microbiology and chemical engineering, specifically biofuels, bioenergy, bioprocessing, bioremediation. Dr. Shende, another faculty member who was hired as part of the start of the PhD program. Dr. Shende, research areas, bioprocessing, bioenergy, nanomaterials, biosensors, teaching areas, fluid mechanics, some process safety and process design courses, mass transfer. He's taught some of the unit operations labs as well. Dr. Walker, who is also, you can note here, is also a graduate of our own program. So he did his BS here, both in chemical engineering and math, and after a PhD at Stanford and some time elsewhere. He's now part of our faculty. Research focus areas, soft matter, polymers, rheology, fluid mechanics, and teaches a lot of courses related to fluid mechanics, transport, as well as computer programming. And then Dr. Winter, who many of you know, he was the previous department head before he chose to step down last year. And Rob still stepped down from CBE as a department head, but you can see he's still the BME biomedical engineering program coordinator on campus. So he still has a pretty healthy administrative role, still active in research, polymers and composites, and still active in teaching, teaching some of the senior courses, courses related to, ethics and engineering, as well as some polymer electives. Okay. So I did want to kind of give everybody that little update on the faculty. Let me go catch the Q&A question. Oh, that's a great question. The question is, how many PhDs degrees have been granted? Wow. Okay, so we started in 2007. It took, I don't have the exact number, but I can ballpark it. It took about 4 to 5 years before that first PhD graduated. So around 2011, 2012, they graduated. Since then, for about the past 9 years, we're probably looking at about somewhere on the order of about almost maybe 2 to 3 a year. So we're probably somewhere in the 2 dozen-ish that have already graduated. That's probably a pretty decent number. Could be a little bit higher. We've also seen a tremendous uptick in, as I mentioned, master's students. So even the number of master's students who've graduated has grown significantly. We've also seen, because we now have an accelerated master's program where students can do their bachelor's and master's in 5 years. And that's really stimulated a lot of our undergrads to decide to stay on and stay on for a master's degree. And some of them are non-thesis students who do coursework only, but a fair number of them will do a research or thesis master's. And so we probably are also now seeing, probably at least 2 to 3 master's students a year graduating with their degrees. So a lot of additional research activity across the department. Also, not to stick on the research theme or note too much, but I guess I would also add CBE. I think it's probably pretty fair to say we're the largest graduate program on campus as far as total number of PhD and master's students. So we're currently the largest by student number count. We're also probably the largest in related to research grants awarded and research expenditures. Probably right now in the CBE department, we are probably account for about $32 million of research, not in a single year, but if we counted all of the dollars from all of the awards, and all these awards are usually about, some are a 1-year award, some will go 3 to 5 years, but probably right now in our portfolio, we probably have about $32 million of research. And for those that are interested more, I won't belabor it too much in this one, but maybe we'll move on to some other topics. But for those that want to know more, just because I know that's probably been a big a big change for some folks, depending on when your graduation time was here on campus. But if you're ever interested, if you head back over to our department page, and if you go to the research page, you can now see all of the research areas that faculty are involved in. So just to kind of name them topically: bio and renewable energy and fuels, biomaterials, and you can also see the faculty members' names underneath for who's a participant in which areas. Biomaterials, biomedical engineering, bioprocessing and biochemical engineering, catalysis and reaction engineering, complex fluids and soft solids, computer simulation and modeling, environmental and remediation, microbiology, biotechnology, nanotechnology, polymers, separations, and thermodynamics. So if you want to know a little bit more about kind of the research happenings, I encourage you to take a quick peek there. Let me just check again, make sure. Yep, caught all the questions on the Q&A. Yeah, so some other things maybe that I'll mention just as far as other department updates. We are, at least on the undergrad side, in case you're wondering what the undergrad program looks like now, we currently have about 190 students in the undergrad program. We are down a little bit from where we were a couple years ago, about 2011 through 2016, 2017. We were up more around 220, 240 undergrads in the program. That's a significant jump for some folks, depending on your alumni class. For some of you, you might say, wow, that's a huge jump. I know just for me, when I started here in 2007, I started off teaching more on the order of about maybe say 20 students in a given course. So if I taught the sophomore thermodynamics course, I might catch 20 students, maybe 25. By the time we got to 2012, 2014, we might have 60 students in that sophomore thermodynamics course. So we currently are down a little bit. We're about 190. I would say some of that was some individuals who were coming into chemical engineering decided, once there was a biomedical engineering program on campus, some folks have decided that BME was a more appropriate fit for their career interests and academic interests. But we currently sit at about 190 undergrads. Not to get into discussions related to COVID. If people have questions related to COVID, I'd be glad to answer those. But because of COVID, like a lot of universities in the US, over this past year, we were not completely closed. We were open. We were in what was called a hybrid mode. So if you're wondering how undergrads specifically did the past year on our campus, they were in a hybrid mode. And so the hybrid mode meant that some days they would be in class, some days they would be out of class watching online. And all of that was done in order to adhere to Board of Regents mandated social distancing policies. So kind of, related to that, there's been a relatively big infrastructure change as far as education on campus. All of the classrooms on campus are now distance capable in some way, shape, or form. And that was done with some of the federal monies that the university acquired, that they chose to make the rooms distance capable in that manner. That meant that walking into this year, undergrad students in those moments and in classroom periods when they were not in class, that they'd be able to watch lectures recorded live. They could see them viewed live in real time. If they wanted to go back and watch them on record, they could do that later. So a real big infrastructure change that certainly has been utilized in the season of COVID, might be utilized once COVID passes. For those that might be wondering what the School of Mines is going to do come next year, looks like right now that we will be fully in person next fall. That's been the word that's come from the Board of Regents. And so in case you're wondering, we will be back fully in fall. In fact, the word I hear is that the campus will be fully open for this summer, possibly even yet in the month of May. Just related, again, not to linger on things on COVID too long, but just going back to the sharing of stories, something that I thought that folks might be interested in hearing is that we did find out as a department about 2 months ago that a graduate of our master's program was actually a member of the Moderna COVID vaccine development team. So that was just something, interesting to find out that the School of Mines actually has a connection to that work that was done through Moderna. So give you a couple other updates. Again, if you haven't seen the Unit Operations Lab, again, I'll make another plug for the reunion. Great opportunity to see the Unit Operations Lab. If you're not able to make it to the reunion, I'm recording this in my office, not really a great convenient way to give you a proper tour of the Unit Operations Lab. But we are currently in the process of making a video of that space. Marketing and public relations is helping us out with a video for that. So when that video is available, I will certainly make sure to share that with everyone, so that we can that you can all kind of see the transformation that's happened there. I'm going to take the moment to pepper in another comment, just because for those of us that have a connection to mines, it's part of our extended family, and it's always fun to know, to share stories related to family. So I'll share this one because sometimes we only know what we experience. We don't know beyond that. Maybe some of the folks here listening in have already seen other places and spaces on other universities and have a perspective, but if not, I'll just share the following data point. We had a seminar visitor back in the fall of 2019 for our graduate programs. Whenever we have a seminar visitor, we always, the faculty meet with them during the day, up until the point of the seminar. Usually we give them a tour of the department, maybe a little bit of tour of campus, the research facilities and things like that. This particular seminar speaker, because my mother taught me well, I will not say the name of the university, but I'm just going to leave it as it was a Big Ten university. And I only share that much only to give you a sense of the nature of the university from which this individual came. But I was giving him a tour of the CBEC building, specifically stepped into the Unit Operations Lab, at which point the individual asked, he said, "Do you mind if I take photos?" And I said, "No, please go ahead, take photos." And as he's snapping photos with his smartphone, he then remarks, he says, "We don't have a facility this nice at my home university." Okay. So I just wanted to share that to you for those of you who have a pride in your School of Mines training and a proud connection to the department. For those of you who were generous donors to make that space possible, if you didn't already have a point of reference, I just wanted to give you that as a point of reference. The place that we have absolutely rivals and stands among the best of all of the 150 to 60 some odd chemical engineering programs in the United States. So that's just something I thought I would share with all of you, if you didn't already know that. And that's something that I regularly like to share with all the prospective students who come by for visits. Maybe a couple other things I'll mention related to the undergrad program. I know I mentioned the biochemical engineering specialization, that was kind of a new thing that was launched. Also would say we've also made some changes to senior design. Specifically, we still do process engineering, but we now have a new course in product design. So we can do process design, product design. Basically, everybody's got to take one semester of process design and process engineering, but their second semester, they can opt to take a product design course. And so that was a move to make our design sequence a little bit more contemporary. In addition, we also have added some new process safety content to our senior design circuit. And also very, very proud to say that I think we were on the forefront of doing that. We actually started doing it before it became a larger chemical engineering community movement. we were probably about 2-3 years into that transition of our curriculum when the chemical industry at large basically started telling ABET, the main accreditation board for engineering programs in the US, the chemical industry started telling ABET, we really want universities to teach more process safety. ABET really, started emphasizing that in reviews when they would come and visit departments. We actually had a lot of information to share with them in 2016 when we had our last accreditation review. And so it was just, again, I just wanted to share that as another story, just to let you know kind of how, if it's fair to say, proactive we've been, and I think visionary we've been in putting some of those things in place, and kind of sensing the needs that industry has for the majority of the students that do come out of our undergraduate programs. We do have this new PhD program, and we fully embrace that, but we still know our roots, we know who we are, and we know that a lot of the students that are coming to us are headed to industry, 80-90% of them. And a lot of companies that are coming to us come to us because they value, the fundamentals that we all are taught and provide, but they value that hands-on and the practical. And so we wanted to make sure that we were continuing in that way. And so those are some of the things that were infused into the undergrad program. Maybe a couple other things I'll mention on the grad ed side. I know I mentioned the genesis of the PhD program and the state of the PhD and master's program. I know I mentioned a little bit on kind of the size of the research portfolio right now for the department. Um, uh, Maybe a couple other things I'll just mention. We've had really a lot of great success stories, even for some of our students. We've had students from our graduate programs go on and win poster session awards, presentation awards, some recent ones. A PhD student from about 3-4 years back actually won third place in the poster session at AACHE in the Catalysis and Reaction Engineering Division, which for those of you that might be familiar with AACHE, that's a very large conference. That Catalysis and Reaction Engineering is a huge division. Basically, I forget the two. I think one of them was the University of Pittsburgh that was second place. I forget who was first place. But that's the level of research that we're seeing. And also, I would add this too. We also just found out that a graduate student of one of our CBE faculty members was just awarded a National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Award. So she's actually going to have her graduate fellowship from the National Science Foundation. So a lot of student success stories and a lot of things, a lot of very, very, very competitive, high profile research. Things I would mention, maybe some specific ones I should mention. A recent one is biofilm engineering. So that's a new research endeavor on this campus. That one is actually across the state. It's pretty multidisciplinary. It involves School of Mines, SDSU, USD. That one alone involves probably 5 or 6 chemical engineering faculty and about probably 7 or more graduate students, master's and PhD. That whole research center it's a National Science Foundation center. It's about $20 million worth of funding over 5 years, basically for us to, fully investigate and study biofilms, both as they form in natural systems and in engineered systems, and then to use that knowledge to help to mitigate things such as corrosion. Okay. So that's a big research endeavor. That's an ongoing one. There's also, in the past, there was this award completed about 2 or 3 years ago, but there was a $9 million Air Force award that was centered a lot on energy, waste reduction, and energy production. Some of that centered on bioenergy and biofuels. There are a number of faculty in the U.S. In our department right now who who have individual NSF awards. We currently have an NSF Career awardee. So Dr. Walker currently owns an NSF Career Award, which some of you might be aware if you're familiar. That's probably the most prestigious individual award that an investigator could get anywhere in any discipline or field, in the STEM fields. Dr. Carrione also has an individual NSF award. Dr. Shende, Carrione, and Gilcrease all have Department of Energy research awards. Dr. Groven has a tremendous amount of Department of Defense funding. And then Dr. Menkhaus, his research in separations, for those that might not be aware, has actually spun off into a startup company, Nanoparel, which was actually just bought out and acquired through Gamma Biosciences. So just want to share those extra research details just to let you know again how much, beyond the student number count, just how much things have grown on the research side. I'm just going to check the Q&A one more time, make sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Updates on former faculty members. Yeah. So for, let me go most recent, Dr. Pazinski, he stepped down from so he left chemical engineering in about, if you knew Dr. Pazinski, he left in about, he still was at the university, but he left the CBE department in about 2016 or so. He made a transition at that time and stepped into the role of vice president of research for the campus. And so he was the vice president of research for about 2 or 3 years. And then while still holding the vice president of research position, while still wearing that hat, our current university president is Dr. Jim Rankin. Before that, it was Heather Wilson. If you might have known, Heather had some connections, to the Air Force. Heather was basically tapped by then President Trump to be Secretary of the Air Force. So President Wilson left the university, and basically Jan Pazinski stepped in and served as interim department head for about 6 months to a year, or interim president for 6 months to a year. And then after that, about 2019, then he chose to step down from the university. So he's retired, still in the area, still loosely at times does advise students, will jointly advise some students for research, not a sole advisor, not really teaching anymore, not really doing sole investigator research anymore, but he still will sometimes be active on committees and such. Other former faculty members, unfortunately, I don't have any updated information about Doctors Monroe or Bauer at this time, but I'll try and chase that down and maybe be able to provide that at a future time.
Dr. Benjamin, there is
Yeah.
a question in
Oh.
chat from Neil.
Oh, sorry, Neil.
That's okay. What are the current graduate placement percentage and what does the department need?
Oh, okay. Our current placement rate, we're right around the university kind of, 96, 97%. And so the placement's still very, very high. As far as needs, probably one of the biggest needs, I'd say, scholarships. If folks are in a position and so felt so inclined and had the ability to give, I think an ongoing department need that we have a lot of folks, and probably some of the folks on this call have been regular donors, and we thank you for that. It means so much to our students. But we could certainly always use more scholarship money. We are a very, very, still probably one of the best buys on the market for a college education, that being the School of Mines, between the relatively low tuition rate that we charge, and then of course the dollar value of a chemical engineering degree. So we're a tremendous value, but there are a lot of, just the landscape and the way things change over time, there are a lot of departments and programs and universities in the US that just have a lot more scholarship dollars to throw, and sometimes we're not able, still in the difference, right, in the buying power difference between the price of tuition and the financial aid offered. Sometimes we do lose out on students, just simply because we aren't able to match, scholarships offers that they might receive from other places. So yeah, I would probably put, to go into Neil's question, that's probably one of the greatest needs, that we do have, would be things related to scholarship. Um, Another one, if the question's out there, I'll answer it in this way. Just since we've started the PhD program, that brings in other things on the undergrad side. Well, I can probably add a couple other things to the undergrad side if the question's still out there. Scholarships would be a big one. That, not to undermine, if service. If there are folks out there on this call who would like to, participate in our activities, and by that I mean, if you would like, we regularly will have, we'll look for people who, uh if you had a career in industry and you'd like to be a guest speaker in CBE 111, which is kind of our freshman survey of chemical engineering course, right? We'd love to have you as a speaker there. If you want to swing to the back end, and talk to the seniors in CBE 487, where we talk about, global and contemporary issues related to, the environment, ethics, and things like that. Just, if there are topics or things where you think you would love to be, a speaker, please let me know. Would love to plug you in with whatever course or courses make the most sense. Could even be the AICHE student chapter, right? Regularly love to have them. They regularly like to have guest speakers. Okay. So the scholarships would be one. The service would be another. Um, if related back to the area of donations, if folks ever felt like they wanted to make donations for, facilities and equipment upgrades, that sometimes is an area where, depending year to year, sometimes we have more money available and sometimes less, but certainly some of those, special launches like the biochemical engineering specialization, that was only made possible with some donations. So, um, on the graduate side, there are also, certainly costs associated with that. So if folks ever felt like they wanted to make a donation, but instead of a scholarship at the undergrad side, something like a graduate fellowship, um, that's tremendously helpful too, without getting too much into the weeds. But sometimes a research grant that a faculty has, it might only last 3 or 4 years, but that PhD student needs a fourth or fifth year. So, we are always trying to, find, secure, build up internal resources so that we have kind of, some movable discretionary monies that we can use in order to provide, maybe say, a fellowship to a student or grad student, or a stipend, in order to, to kind of fill the gap in, for that last year of their PhD. So that would be maybe another one that I would mention. I'm also going to go off Neil's question, but maybe in a different way. I guess still kind of a department need, but maybe make this more, back about the reunion. Just because I see we have so many folks still on the call, and I know the hour is getting late, and I don't want to neglect to ask this. But related to that 100th anniversary, again, so it's part of the regular reunion that's happening this summer. So again, the dates are July 8 to 10. Things that we're planning to have happen. Obviously, there'll be, tours of the building. There'll probably be some mixers. We've even talked about a dinner, so a chance for people to, obviously, like in the spirit of a reunion should be, a chance for people to get back together, connect, meet with classmates, that you graduated with, find fellow alums from, neighboring years that maybe you didn't know as well. So a chance to meet some new people. But related to that, so I guess, two things. Number one if you're able to make it, we would love to have you, given that it's a 100-year anniversary. We'd love to make this the biggest celebration that we could. So as your travel plans and personal plans and whatnot allow, you hope to see you there. But back to the question of need. And this is actually I'm kind of asking this on behalf of Dr. Winter. Even though I am the interim department head at this moment, Rob is still really kind of the point person for the 100-year anniversary. Um, but Rob is trying to put together a collection of stories. Okay. And to give you an example, and so what we'd love to do is have this collection of stories of everybody's time at Mines. And so these could be stories about, particular faculty members, if particular faculty members that you had, maybe they were, a course that you took from them, maybe they provided some sort of mentoring to you, whatever that would be, right? Or staff members, not even limiting it to faculty members, but staff members. So anybody affiliated in the CBE or CHE faculty and staff, stories about that, stories about the unit ops lab, right? Some of those might be fun stories. Some of those might be painful stories. Obviously share the ones that you want to share. But if you've got stories related to the unit ops lab, stories related to courses, co-ops and internships, maybe that you did as part of your time in our program, or even stories related to, the university at large, or maybe, faculty in other departments. We would love to have your stories. Okay. And if you've got them, you want to, type them out in an email, or type them out in Word or whatever, and send it on. Please email it. If you can email it to Rob directly, that's great. If you want to send it to me, that would work. That would work fine too. But really looking to compile as many stories as we can. Folks on this call, if you know that a classmate maybe doesn't regularly attend these kind of updates, or that maybe might not be able to make it to the reunion, but if you know other classmates out there, please ask them too. So I guess kind of in that, asking you all for two things. Number one, asking for your own personal stories, and number two, asking you to spread the word, right? We're going to continue to spread the word. Rob and I will, Sarah and all the folks at Cara, they'll continue to spread the word. But just if you've got, keep in close contact with some of your fellow classmates and other alums that you might know, please spread the word that way too. Just everybody send us your stories. Okay. Yeah, that is probably the gist of what I kind of had thought to share. Oh, there is one other last thing I'll share real quick, and then I do want to leave time if there are any other questions that people wanted to ask. One last thing that I would share, and this is not a final thing. This is one of those in the works kinds of things. But like I mentioned, one of the things that really stimulated the growth of the PhD program on this campus was bioprocessing and bioenergy. And related to that, the School of Mines and the chemical engineering department is a major lead in this endeavor, but the School of Mines, with chemical engineering playing a lead, and South Dakota State University, mainly looking at their ag biosciences and those respective departments, we are in the process of proposing to the state of South Dakota to create a bioprocessing facility. So we already have a biochemical engineering bioprocessing specialization inside of our ChemE degree. I know I mentioned that earlier, but this is actually a proposal that would build basically a pilot scale facility in the state of South Dakota. It would be something that after folks have done their bench scale research, right? So, and the bench scale research would happen, here in CBEC and chemical engineering. Maybe it happens across the state at SDSU and their biology department, or maybe in our chemistry department or their ag sciences department. But after the bench scale, as people look to move toward commercialization, We would basically be building a pilot scale facility on the east side of the state. Looks like proposal, this is all proposed, so nothing's written in stone yet. Likely be on the east side of the state, but a bioprocessing facility that would be used for commercialization, basically transitioning research towards commercialization, covering biofuels, bioprocessing, ag chemical, ag chem and ag sciences, food and nutrition, and also biopolymers, because as a value-added product, and with our long history in polymer research as well, both in the department and for the School of Mines, those are kind of the slate of products that we're eyeing right now in our portfolio. That'd be a facility that hopefully would stimulate economic growth for South Dakota. Also, hopefully help continue to grow the research portfolio, both for School of Mines, chemical engineering, as well as across the state at SDSU. Also should provide some real fantastic research projects for graduate students. And it's probably going to become, in some way, shape, or form, a bit of a playground for the undergrads too, because that's going to be if this thing goes through, again, proposed, but if this goes through, be a tremendous learning space for such a large facility for undergrads to utilize. So again, that's still kind of in the works, not a done deal. But as I find out more about that, would certainly pass that along to folks. So yeah, that was the last item on my agenda. I do want to make time for questions if folks have more questions, either through the chat or the Q&A, or if you'd like an open mic. According to Dane, it sounds like we can do that. So yeah, so if folks have questions, something that I didn't touch on or that you'd like to know more about, please let me know.
Also, while we're waiting, if there's any more questions, I dropped a link for a survey for feedback. And part of that survey, we're always open to looking for ideas of if there's anything we can do to help alumni feel more connected to the school. Please leave that feedback in the survey. And then for those of you, if you've signed up for Reunion or are looking to sign up for Reunion, the link to the website, I also dropped that in the chat so you can sign up. Reunion is $10 this year. If you're interested in the Golf Classic that is associated with Reunion, that's $125 a person, but we'd love to have you. More information will also be posted on the website regarding events. We're in the process of developing some more, so the schedule will change again. So please, that's probably not the final. And then we have some upcoming events for alumni in April that I wanted to highlight. We are doing a third annual Student Alumni Hard Rocker Trivia Night, and this is a great way to connect with alumni from all over the country. And this is all over Zoom, so the registration links for that is also in the chat. And then on Thursday, April 15th at 11 a.m., we're doing a digital lunch and learn called Materials, Spinal Disc to 3D Printed Projects. And this is going to be presented by Dr. Kat Donovan. She's a Chemie 10, one of our alumni, so really interesting talk. And then Thursday, April 15th, we are partnering with the WISE program on campus, which is Women in Science and Engineering. And we are having a roundtable discussion so this is open to all alumni, and then students just come into the table to discuss things. So the registration links are there. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop us in chat or send us an email. Dr. Benjamin, do you want to put your email in chat for them? So if they have any questions, they can email you directly, or Dr. Winters too, if they have questions about where to send the stories.
Yep. Thank you. Yep. So yeah, thank you, Sarah, for the prompt. Yeah. So I just sent you my email and Rob's. Again, Rob is kind of the point person for the 100-year anniversary. So if you want to send those stories to Rob, feel free to do that. But if you want to send them to me, yeah, that'd be great too. Just at the moment, not seeing any questions. One thing I'll just go back as well. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for the comment. certainly hope to do more of these, and so maybe there would be more opportunities for us to do this sort of thing. Kind of nice to have this interaction. Nothing wrong with the newsletter, but it's always nice if you have a, somewhat of a little bit more interactive environment. And also going back to something I mentioned earlier, when off of the question about ways to connect with the department. And I know I gave the kind of that laundry list of ways that folks could connect. I'll just maybe add two other things on. If you're currently in industry and you think that you ever have a project that would make for a good senior design project, would love to have it. Would love to have it. Again, since I guess the floor is still mine, I'll share one more story. One of the Chemi senior design projects this year, it is actually a joint effort. I thought this was pretty neat. A whiskey company in Japan, they reached out to the university, started through the mechanical engineering department in their senior design circuit. But this whiskey company in Japan, they wanted to design a filtration unit for their whiskey company. Okay. And so it started in ME, but then the conversation went from there, and it was quickly realized that in order to best engineer that system, you would need some MEs, some chemis, and some double E's. And so there currently is a team, 4 mechanical engineering students, 4 chemical engineering students, and 2 double E students. And their senior design experience this year has been in the fall. They did some bench scale testing. They did some characterization and analysis. They started some design and prototyping. And COVID and travel allowing, as they move forward with the design and the build of the apparatus, sometime this May or June, those 10 School of Mines students are going to hop on a plane and they're going to fly over to Japan and they're going to install the thing. Okay, which is a tremendous experience. And so if you're someone who's still in industry, or if maybe you've just recently retired or left industry, but you have folks that always would love to have kind of real life senior design projects like that. So if you ever have any ideas of something that would work for your current company or maybe a former employer, please let us know that as well. And equal to that, I'll just say, since we're on a Zoom call all together, if you ever decide that you want to connect with us and participate in any of those student activities, we could do the whole thing virtually, right? So if you ever wanted to participate in speaking to a Chemi class, we could make that happen all virtually. No need for someone to travel all the way here, unless of course you're in the area or wanted to travel. So just wanted to pepper those two things in. I'll turn it back out again. Any other questions or things I can answer on anyone's mind before we close the hour together? Currently there are, question was how many on the call. There's currently, right now there's about 20 total, but we peaked at about 25. So if you subtract Dane and Sarah and myself, there were about 22 alums that were on this call. Yep, so about 22 alums. The ranges of, I don't know if people spanned in the chat, but if you wanted to go back and scroll through, saw as recent as 19 and as back as 69. So we spanned 50 years in the various alums represented today. So thank you. And to that end, I should say thank you for everybody that took the time to join the call today and to be a part of this. It means a lot to us that you would want to stay connected and know about what's happening here, and that you'd want to be a part of what's happening here. So before we close, just a thank you from me personally, as the interim head, and also just a thank you on behalf of the department as a whole. So.
Yes, I echo that. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And if if you would like to view this, we'll record it. We'll put it. Well, it is recorded. We'll upload it to our YouTube channel. So just watch for that information. So everyone, have a great day and a good holiday.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everyone.